Welcome, everyone, to a Dose of Wisdom Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, David Stein, and today we have the privilege of having as our guest Shimon Eisikowicz. Shimon is Executive Vice President and Chief Lending Officer at Cross River Bank. He has successfully originated and syndicated billions of dollars worth of commercial real estate loans, as well as other types of loans. Shimon, thank you again for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Okay, likewise. So my first question to you is, Cross River opened its doors during the height of the Great Recession in 2008. What's the backstory to how Cross River got started?
Now, I guess it's really not a backstory at this point. About 15 years later, I think the story is still being written.
Right.
And I think it's a great story. But as you pointed out, it wasn't the height of the Great Recession. And certainly at the time, it seemed like the worst time to, open a bank, let alone to enter into the real estate lending business in probably what is considered the most competitive, market, which is the New York tri-state market. But in hindsight, it was the best thing for us. It certainly gave us an opportunity to get our foot in the door with many would-be borrowers that ordinarily would have, been doing business with other larger, more established institutions. And because banks were, dealing with all the turmoil in the height of the Great Recession, it gave us an opportunity to really build the platform that we've built at that time and have successfully built upon over the recent, 14 or so years.
So you were able to fill the void that other banks were not able to step into during that time.
Saying it one way, or fill a void that they created, right, by leaving or pulling out of the market, allowing us to be a new entrant.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So Cross River has made its mark by being innovative. Can you tell us more about how Cross River has embraced technology to be able to power their growth?
So technology is obviously the core of Cross River, and being a young entrepreneurial bank, and as you said earlier, being born in the height of the crisis in 2008. One of the big advantages to us was to not have the archaic, stodgy, old way, that banks have been known to do business, and leveraging technology that didn't exist for many of the more established banks, and not only leveraging it, but building the bank around the technology as it was evolving and as it continues to evolve, has enabled us to be a leader in an otherwise fiercely competitive business known as banking. So, technology might be scary to some. To us, it's the core of what we do and how we do everything.
Right. Okay. So on that note, what are your thoughts on AI, and how do you think it will impact the banking industry? I just happened to read an article about how JP Morgan is coming out with a chat GPT-like software program. So just wanted your take on it.
Well, I think like any other technology, I think that there's ways to use it that's to people's advantage, and there's probably ways that may not be as advantageous. I think AI is just another example or another tool that's going to enable people to do things much more efficiently, much more quickly, and I think it's going to really enhance the business. I think that people need to embrace it. I think people need to learn how to adapt to the technology and how to, in order to maximize or benefit, from the new technology that continues to emerge. Similar to my previous, comment on Cross River and technology. I think that is where the world is going. And I think it's a great place. I think it's a great thing. And it's going to be another tool in everybody's arsenal. It's just a matter of adapting and learning how to use the technology most efficiently.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What are the advantages that Cross River offers for commercial real estate versus a traditional real estate lender?
So don't take this the wrong way, but we are a traditional lender. We may go about some of our offerings in a non-traditional way, but that's what makes us unique, and that's what sets us apart from some of the other banks. We're a bank like every other bank. We're an FDIC regulated bank. We're a state chartered bank. We gather deposits like every other bank. You use Chase as one of your examples, JP Morgan as one of your examples earlier on. We're no different other than the size, obviously, and reputation. Obviously, we don't have the experience and years that they have, but we're no different than they are when it comes to bank and another bank. So in terms of our offerings and how we customize our deals or how we tailor our deals, that is what makes us maybe a little less traditional, because we're willing to be that entrepreneurial, that creative, and willing to step out of our comfort zone for a relationship, for a client, for a specific transaction, for whatever it may be. And that's where we're probably a little less traditional, but I think in a positive way, not in a negative way.
Right, of course. Right, so Cross River is known for its collaborative spirit. How does Cross River work with other banks and lenders?
So yeah, that is absolutely true. We are collaborative, and that is part of our DNA. We recognized early on, as the conversation started, our conversation started moments ago. We were born in the height of recession and in a very, challenging environment for many reasons, for banks and for borrowers. And we recognized early on that part of, one of the areas that is lacking was the collaboration between smaller banks and mid-sized banks, or average-sized banks and other average-sized banks, where one bank may have more of an appetite for a specific asset type or loan type, and another may have the ability to originate that loan, but may not have the appetite. So maybe a capital constraints, and maybe liquidity constraints, and maybe a host of reasons why there's that disconnect. And that's where the collaboration was born. We can originate. We had a very healthy, robust pipeline of commercial real estate loans from early on, and thankfully it has carried us to where we are today.
Okay. Can you share with the audience how Cross River was able to successfully navigate the challenges brought about by the pandemic?
Sure. I think the pandemic and the challenges that were brought upon by the pandemic is just another area of where and how our entrepreneurial and creative spirit has enabled us to use what seemed to be an insurmountable challenge as an unbelievable opportunity. Clearly COVID was challenging. Clearly, there was a lot of unknown, a lot of fear, and a host of other emotions that were going on obviously in the world, the United States, and in banking and everywhere else. But unlike many other banks, what we did was we dug deep into our own DNA and into our foundation, and we looked at how can we help people, how can we turn this into an opportunity to do good for people. And one of our mottos here within our four walls is we do well by doing good. And that was really the motto. Many banks, again, shut their doors. Many banks only opened their doors to their existing clients, or they were only willing to lend a certain dollar, at a certain dollar amount because it was maybe worthwhile for them. We didn't take that approach. Our first approach was, how do we help people? How do we help people navigate this tumultuous and really crazy time? We started by helping many of the non-for-profits obtain the PPP loans that the government was starting to offer. We could have focused on existing clients. We could have focused on the larger loans, which made more, potentially was more profitable, but that was not our approach. It was, how do we help the people, and how do we do the most damage in a good way? Meaning,
Right.
how can we use the little bit that we're able to do and make the biggest bang for our buck, if you would, in terms of helping people. And along with that approach of trying to help people, it led to us doing other business, obviously, and we were able to turn that challenging market into a very, very profitable and good one. But it's only because we put the needs of everybody before our own.
Right.
So yes, and again, it goes back to the technology. We took the technology that we have, that we've built the bank around, and leveraged that to be able to help as many people as possible and as quickly as possible. So, which is why we were one of the top banks in the nation, helping people, providing them with the necessary funds to keep their business open, to keep their
Right.
payroll going, to keep their lights on, to pay their rent. We took the opportunity that was presented to us, leveraging the technology that we had, and we were able to help by far more people, more individuals, and more small businesses than almost anybody else in the country.
Well, I do remember Cross River's role in helping people, and it says a lot about the integrity of the bank. Quite impressive. So what are some of the asset classes that you are personally bullish on, considering the current market environment?
So I think, I think that the question's a fair question, but I'm not sure that it's necessarily fully accurate, and no disrespect to you. We're bullish on any good loans. And I
Right.
think in any market, in any environment, there are good loans and there are bad loans. There are good assets and there are bad assets. People thought 2 or 3 years ago, at severely reduced rates and reduced cap rates, that any deal made sense, and those were great deals to be made. And in hindsight, those were not necessarily the right deals or good deals. It seemed like a great deal. It seemed like a great market. I think that today we're looking at many good deals, and there are many great deals. Sure, it's a challenging environment, but there's a matter, that a challenge doesn't make it a bad deal. It means we need to roll up our sleeves and look at it from a different lens or from a different angle to try to make a good deal. That again, a good deal has to be good to the borrower, but it's got to be good to the bank as well. So we try to look at it from all angles. So I'm bullish on good deals. I think
Right.
that there are many good deals out there and many good borrowers, and it's a
Right.
matter of sticking to the fundamentals. Banks got away from some of the credit fundamentals and some of the underwriting fundamentals, and we quickly forgot 2007, 8, and 9, because of where the environment took us. And I think that this is an important reset right now. Bullish on good deals, and that's
Right.
the way I look at this.
Yes. Yeah, I think I've heard you say on other podcasts that you put an emphasis on the sponsor, and that's something that's important.
Absolutely. There are some fundamentals, as I said, that banks got away from. At the end of the day, it's knowing the client, understanding the relationship, and if they view it the same way, that's a good deal for everybody. It's not always about the rate. It's not always about the asset. It's about some core fundamentals that all banks, all lenders should be focused on, should always focus on. And then the temporary market conditions should have no impact for the most part on most deals, if that is the case.
Okay. All right. So my final question to you is, what advice do you have for real estate investors on navigating the current challenges in the real estate market?
I think the best advice I can give anybody is stick to the fundamentals. There are great deals out there. There are great assets out there. You need to understand the market that you're in. You need to understand the asset that you're looking at, understand the realistic, opportunities within a specific deal, irrespective of what somebody else may have done in a different environment, or even with a different asset that is neighboring to this asset. This is its own asset. It's its own tenant mix. It's got its own upside and potentially downside. And if you look at it for what it is today and not only what it could be, you're likely going to make the right decision for the right reason. And certainly you can enjoy the upside if that does come to fruition.
Well, that was definitely valuable advice. I appreciate you taking the time, and hopefully we could have you again sometime.
And I really appreciate you making the time to talk through some of these discussion points with me. And I appreciate the audience for listening.
Okay. All right. Have a great day.
You as well. Thank you.
Okay.